Hold up, why do they doubt the kid? I'm about to prove them all wrong again. I got a low tolerance, cause they don't even know what the problem is. It's me. You waiting on the boy to fail, then hold your breath and face your death. Cause you play the roulette with each step I progress, no less. Go ahead and place your bet.
Welcome back, y'all. This is the Double M Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Jesus Dinero, here with my co-host. What do we got going on tonight, my man?
We are talking about UFC 318 for the BMF title, Dustin Diamond Poirier versus Blessed Max Holloway. Let's talk about it.
So, we have a big match, two big names, Dustin Poirier going up against Max Holloway. And this is Dustin's retirement fight. This is his fadeaway. It's going to be in his hometown there in Louisiana. And, listen, man, unfortunately for Dustin, it's always been a case of he's always just been very, very close. I know he grabbed interim gold, but that was really the closest he's ever been to the full undisputed title. And sending him off in the way that he wants to send off is the best way to give him his farewell. Dustin Poirier has always been one of my favorite fighters. I'm not going to lie. I think he's shown a lot of the things that you want to see in a fighter. He's shown heart. He's faced the toughest challenges. He's faced some of the best dudes out there, the Khabibs, right now the Max Holloways, the Conor McGregors, so on and so forth. So sending him off in a way that he wants to be sent off in his hometown with one of the best to do it, Max Holloway. You know it's going to be a banger of a fight between these two dudes, because when are these two dudes not in a banger of a fight? I think it's a good way to send the man off. And listen, I'll be honest with you, I won't be disappointed with either man winning. I like both of these guys. Max Holloway clearly has a lot of heart. He's one of the most phenomenal fighters to watch as far as the striking game. Dustin Poirier is very tactical, very good fighter, very well balanced in many, many facets of the game. So I'm glad that these two are getting in the ring and squaring off. And listen, ideally, I like both of these, but ideally, given this is Dustin's farewell fight, I'd like to see him win. Who doesn't want to, see one of their favorite fighters leave the game in a good send-off, in a well send-off? And I think for Dustin, I think that's what we'd all like to see. Now, that being said, everyone's also a big fan of Max Holloway. So, nobody wants to see Max Holloway lose. But again, at least for me personally, ideally, I'd like to see Dustin Poirier win. Now, the reality of the circumstances is Dustin's got a hell of a chin. Max Holloway has a hell of a chin. Both of these dudes are dudes that can take a punch. Both of these dudes are dudes that can take a lot of damage and deal a lot of damage. So as far as who's going to win, I think it could go either way, but I am favoring Dustin. Not just because Dustin is a good striker, much like Max Holloway, but as we saw with the Khabib fight, Dustin came this close to submitting Khabib. Wasn't able to get it done, but he came close. So that's the fact that he can definitely throw strikes in there just like Max Holloway, and he could wrestle well, potentially lock in a submission. I'm personally favoring Dustin Poirier. Another reason I'm favoring Dustin Poirier is I don't think over the career lifetime he's taken as much damage as a Max Holloway. Max Holloway has gone in there and had banger of slugfest with many, many, many of the great strikers in his time, in his division, so on and so forth. So I think all of that put together, I'm going to be favoring Dustin. Dustin, to me, seems like he's taking less damage, and because of that, he's a little bit more steadfast. As far as the overall circumstances, I do think Dustin has a little bit more working for him, that I believe he's going to be the one that's going to be taking this by the end. Given these two dudes, I wouldn't be surprised if it ended much, much, much before the final bell. Again, both of these dudes are big strikers. They like to get in there and brawl it out, punch it out. And I wouldn't be surprised if either one of them got the knockout. But I'm absolutely, absolutely favoring Dustin as of right now. If Dustin falls into the prey of a Max Holloway shootout, much like Justin Gaethje did, I could definitely see Max Holloway taking it. And I'll be honest with you, Dustin Poirier is not above falling for something like that. Dustin Poirier is a very prideful guy as far as his fighting career. Dustin Poirier is going to be on his farewell fight, so he's got something to prove on his way out. So, again, I would not at all be surprised if Max Holloway lured him into a trap, much like Justin Gaethje, and potentially gets the knockout because of that. Hopefully, Dustin thinks twice about doing that, just because, again, Dustin ideally can beat him with all the other tools that he has in the belt. But listen, you never know. Again, these are prideful dudes. These are fighters. These are dudes that want to go out on their shield. And again, this is a farewell fight, which adds even more dynamicness to this. So I would not at all be surprised if Max Holloway does that point to the middle of the ring and Dustin goes for it. What do you think about that, my man?
I do think you actually made an absolutely good point in that one of Dustin Poirier's greatest follies is the fact that he likes to go out there and do his own thing, even against the better advice of some of his ringmen out there, even his coaches. And again, what's the one big meme about Dustin Poirier? Don't be silly, don't jump for the ghillie. And guess what? He absolutely likes to do that. I mean, granted, it worked to his benefit in his fight against Benoit Saint Denis. And granted, yeah, again, that worked. And look, if your coaches advise you again to do that, you do that anyway, and it actually nets you a big win. It's hard to really argue with results like that. But again, that was a pretty ill-advised strategy coming from Dustin Poirier. And again, it's one of those things where Dustin Poirier likes to go out and do his own things against the advice of the better judgment of some of his coaches telling him, hey, you probably shouldn't go for that. We're going to be losing this. There actually was I actually kind of agree with you to a point about the Dustin Poirier having a much more resilient chin than Max Holloway. And to be fair, I do think because recency bias does kind of play a part in this, because we saw Max Holloway go down against Ilia Topuria in as stunning fashion as that was. I think Dustin Poirier actually lost, I think, slightly more by KO than a Max Holloway is. So technically, I think Max Holloway would actually be much more resilient in this. But I do think both of these men have eaten up a bunch of damage in their own respective careers that I do think it could go either way. Technically, I do think Max Holloway has a much more of a resilient chin than does a Dustin Poirier. But again, most of Dustin Poirier's losses came from as a result of either submission or decision. So, I mean, granted, the fact that most of I guess the idea that Dustin Poirier has a more resilient team is because most of his losses came from submission or decision losses. So, I mean, I can understand why that would kind of play into it. But I do think, I think the biggest enemies that Dustin Poirier would have is ignoring the advice of his coaches and going in for doing his own thing. I do think if Max Holloway does play it into the whole pointing down to the ring and calling the fight how he is, which granted, that's actually one of Max Holloway's biggest strength, is actually dictating a match, when by all means it shouldn't really play into his favor, but weirdly enough it kind of does. Max Holloway's weirdly hypnotizing when it comes to that regard. So I do think if Max Holloway dictates the rest of the match, it could be very much his fight, as long as Dustin Poirier doesn't act silly and actually goes for an actual fundamental offense during this round. This could very well be his golden send-off, but I do think there's going to be a little bit of hill to climb, not because Max Holloway is tough. And don't get me wrong, he absolutely is. I do think Dustin Poirier needs to get over his own ego if he wants to go off on that golden farewell tour. But we're going to see what happens in that matchup. But what do you think about my analysis during the entire thing?
Yeah, man, I'll be honest with you. I do think that Dustin is susceptible to falling for that trap that Max Holloway does. And again, it's his farewell fight, so of course there's going to be a lot more of that pride on the line, a lot more of the wanting to go out like a badass, so on and so forth. So I would not at all be surprised if Dustin does fall for it. I was taking a look at the stats. So Max Holloway actually has a 2-inch height advantage on Dustin, but Dustin has a 3-inch reach advantage on him. So, hopefully Dustin uses that little bit of a difference in his reach to kind of keep him, I don't want to say on the outs because it's not that big of a difference, but just enough to make a difference. So we'll see how it goes, man. I definitely do think that Dustin can get the job done. Again, this is his farewell fight, so that's what I'd like to see happen. But, one thing that Max Holloway said in it wasn't an interview, just kind of talking with his fans, he said, I understand that this is Dustin Poirier's last fight. He said, but when he's gone, I'm still going to be here. So I'm going out there to do a job and get that job done well. So listen, it's going to be a slobber fest. It's going to be a knockout, drag-out fight to the very end, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm sure all you guys will be tuning in because it's going to be phenomenal fight. And with that, make sure to like, comment, hate, subscribe, DM us about the bullshit, and
Until next time, get rest and stay blessed. We'll see you in the next one.